My name is Wright. I am the voice of reason. I speak for the Last Crusade.
If you were the devil's advocate and wished to see his party prevail, one method you would advise the Prince of Darkness to adopt would be to find ways to smother the truth before it is spoken. The witnesses must be silenced before they reach the witness box of public opinion. One way of silencing witnesses is to accuse any witness who speaks of denying settled authority. This is the claim that the debate is over and that the science is settled. No matter the conditions of the scientific debate, any moral or theological question the devil's party wishes not to address is decreed to be a scientific question, and therefore proven and done, and to dispute them is to dispute matters of iron-hard and uncontestable fact. The trick is merely to decree, without evidence, without proof, without argument, that those who oppose the devil's party are crackpots, as scientifically illiterate and mentally unbalanced as those who continue to believe that the world is flat, or hollow, or the center of the solar system. Into this category goes endless environmental hoaxes, starting with the ban on DDT inspired by Rachel Carson, through the Alair scare, the acid rain scare, the chlorofluorocarbon ozone hole scare, the global cooling scare, the global warming scare, and on and on. All these and more I can list have been as thoroughly discredited as any scientific hypothesis can be. But the credulity of the true believer of the cult is not and cannot be shaken by mere facts. For example, the most damage done to the Western intellectual tradition comes from Freud, whose work, for anyone who takes time to read it, is hardly even worthy of the name anecdotal evidence. These are case studies where Freud speculates freely about things outside the range of any empirical observation. He makes up myths which he borrows from classical mythology. He gives modern scientific-sounding names to the Platonic division of the soul in order to offer an explanation of the soul which denies the existence of the soul. Freud mesmerized a whole generation, and his ideas to this day are part and parcel of the unspoken consensus worldview of the West, and every field except the hard sciences was influenced. But Freudianism is not science. To this day, I am not sure why even one person was convinced by this flapdoodle. No one familiar with Aristotle would have bought into it. It was certainly not because of the clarity of Freud's thinking, nor the repeatability of his results. He was erecting the first leg of a tripod of a secular religion meant to replace God. His argument was that the belief in God was a child's misplaced belief in a father figure, which was false, ergo unhealthy, and so belief in God had to be erased in order to achieve mental health. His argument was that belief in God is false, ergo it is false. As prime evidence that Freudianism is not science, one need only look at the notorious behavior of Freud and his inner circle toward competing psychologist Carl Jung. When Jung proffered alternate theories, Freud said Jung was motivated by psychological instability. Jung was duly anathematized and excommunicated as a heretic. Of course, the alert reader will notice that scientists, real scientists, welcome challenges to their theories, since the crucible of skepticism is the only test of verity in empirical matters. Here, where the subject matter involved is the soul of man, the word psychology means the study of the soul, no empiricism is involved. Freudianism is a religion. Marxism is the second leg of this anti-Christian religion that became so popular in the modern day. Marxism in the post-war years managed to conquer more than half of the Earth's surface in a matter of decades. Marx claimed that Christianity was an opiate, which was used to dull the pain of the economic injustices built into a world of scarcity and poverty. He famously blamed that poverty and scarcity on the sole institution able to alleviate some measure of this suffering, namely, the free market. Marx promised that by ignoring the science of economics, ignoring realities like the law of supply and demand, and by abolishing the price system, the dark gods of the end of time, if fed blood of millions and tens of millions of innocent human sacrifices, would usher in a utopia, where everything nice and good happens for no reason, and every day is a holiday, and meat pies fly out of clouds and land on your face so you can eat them before making them. Marx promised that abolishing God would usher in the New Jerusalem and return us all to the peace and prosperity of the Garden of Eden. And all the intellectuals of the West believed this claptrap a child could see was false, and cheered and applauded and welcomed their own destroyers, even as to this day they believe, cheer, and applaud Mohammedan terrorism. Now, Freud and Marx, all they had to do was to claim that their make-believe was science, and claim that any idea older than their newly minted ideas was old and therefore out of date, reactionary, a product of prejudice, old-fashioned nostalgia, and superstition. The argument was over. The science was settled. The third leg of the anti-Christian worldview was Darwin, who actually was a careful scientific observer. Now, in all honesty, his theory is not something that can ever be proven or disproven. There is no way, if ever a new species is observed to emerge from an old, to confirm that natural selection and not some other cause was the sole or even primary cause for the change. For the same reason, if a new species is ever seen to emerge, skeptics of Darwinism will have no way of isolating the causes involved to prove that natural selection was not a cause. And since no new species has ever been seen to emerge from the old, even under intelligent dog breeding and horse breeding, and since the strata record shows the opposite of what one would expect from a gradual Darwinian process, namely, a blend of intermediate forms across a regular and uninterrupted program, the phenomena which Darwin seeks to explain has never been observed to happen at all, much less to happen for the specific reason he suggests. Despite this, the theory has a certain robustness, which offers a framework for shedding light on many other aspects of biology. It is a philosophical theory concerning the final cause of a whole class of biological changes. Darwinism offers an explanatory myth or account of why penguins have wings. Ironically, its main advocates use it as a springboard to deny the existence of final cause in nature. But technically speaking, Darwinism is not science because it rests on non-empirical assumptions about matters not open to empirical proof or disproof. You cannot hand me a telescope or a microscope to show me an ape man giving birth to a man or a man giving birth to the Superman. You cannot even breed peas and make them into something other than peas. The people who make windy claims about Darwinian evolution of human social institutions and moral intuitions, much less the evolution of Nietzsche's Superman, Hegelian's Absolute, or Marx's Utopia, are, of course, trampling the good name of Darwin and trying to use his work to put forward philosophical or theological ideas having nothing to do with biology at all. Darwin himself is not junk science, but nearly all modern junk science is based on Darwin. The Darwinians, of course, do not help their cause at all by frothing at the mouth, flailing about, and falling into the same traps of declaring the debate to be over whenever questioned. A case before a court of law, or an inquisition into a heresy, can be declared to be truly over once the Supreme Court or a general ecumenical council makes a ruling. In science, there is no Supreme Court. In science, there is no point at which new evidence will be excluded. If someone tomorrow finds evidence to support the phlogiston theory, then the debate reopens. That is science. Never say the science is settled. If it can be settled, it's not science.